The end of America is upon us. What are you willing to do for it? What are you willing to do? Are you willing to do like the founding fathers did and risk your life and your sacred fortune and honor and everything else that you believe in and care about to save this country? Or are you going to stand there and go along to get along like a sheep to slaughter? Hey guys, welcome back to Hands On channel. This is about my third or fourth attempt to try to make this video because this stuff just makes me livid. I mean, I'm trying to be calm and, somewhat of a voice of reason for people out there that are looking for one. But I'm telling you, this stuff is getting so off the charts that I can understand why Alex Jones is screaming at the top of his lungs on a lot of these videos. And I saw one of these stories here today on Alex Jones, and no one else talked about it back when it originally came out, of course. But, today I actually wanted to just talk about a few things in the news here today. I wanted to tell you guys about how Rand Paul, Senator Dr. Rand Paul, was kicked off of YouTube for having an opinion that goes against the CDC or the WHO's opinion regarding cloth masks. So I can't really say too much about it, or else I'll end up being kicked off or suspended from YouTube, just like Dr. Rand Paul was. So, I mean, unbelievable. Of course, we all saw this coming, back when Trump was actually Alex Jones was one of the first, and then there was a whole host of other people kicked off of this platform because they had views that were opposing to the mainstream views. So, and then it was Trump, of course, and that was one of the biggest ones. But several people, senators, have been kicked off of social media platforms for having a dissenting opinion from the mainstream narrative, the New World Order narrative. So anyways, I was going to tell you about how, we were going to talk a little bit about Obama's party and how they said that basically they didn't have to worry about their event being a super spreader event because, Obama's crowd is very sophisticated and they all had the V. So they don't have to worry about spreading around the contagion. Let's just leave it at that. But me and you, us plebes out here in the real world, we have to wear the masks. We have to lock down. We have to get the mandated V. And more people are talking about that, including Dr. Fauci today. He said something, I'm going to put the headline up here, but Dr. Fauci, and I use doctor loosely because he's more, I guess he is a doctor, but he's kind of like a Dr. Mingala or Dr. Kevorkian kind of a character. So much stuff has come out about him from the experimentation with dogs and stuff that was unnecessary. That's the alarming part. It's not that the scientists have done experimentations to figure out what medication would stop these infestations from consuming the dog or consuming the animal. It's not that. They'd already done all the tests. They didn't need to do it. Several scientists were saying, no, all the data was there. This is totally unnecessary, except for they wanted to spend nearly $500,000, I believe it was, on that research and torture a whole bunch of animals. Disgusting stuff, man. If you're a dog lover like myself and you consider dogs man's best friend, that's pretty damn defensive whenever you see this stuff that Fauci has been up to. And it gets way worse, guys. He is involved with some, Mingala level stuff. If you don't know who that is, go look it up. Dr. Mingala. He was a nasty German scientist that was doing all sorts of experiments on the Jews when they were captive. So anyways, he's done a lot of crazy stuff, experiments on fetal tissue and stuff like that, of certain ethnic variety. It's so overwhelmingly unbelievable that people like you and I that don't think that way, we have a hard time wrapping our brains around this stuff because we don't think along those lines. We're not evil monsters like that, but this guy is. He clearly is. All of the signs are there. The same sort of signs you would look for if you were like looking at someone who was a serial killer or something like that. You would be like, oh, did he torture animals when he was a kid? No, he didn't do it when he was a kid. He did it on your taxpayer money as an adult, as a so-called doctor. And they didn't need to do that experiment. So anyways, that stuff really, really not only disgusts me, and then they do the stuff with the human experimentation, sewing scalps on mice and stuff like that. It is horrible stuff that they've been up to behind the scenes. That's why we now have this bullcrap virus locking our entire country down, changing our entire way of life forever, because I hate to say it, but this is the new normal. Can you trust your government anymore? Could we trust them before? Maybe we were all naive before and we gave them too much trust, which is exactly what has happened. But yeah, I mean, you think Biden's going to stop any of this stuff? Heck no. He loves this stuff. This is their guys. Fauci is one of them. So he's certainly an NWO globalist, along with Bill Gates and, you know, anybody else in the administration you can look at. So certainly liberty-minded people are being pushed into a corner right now. Well, it gets way worse. This article came out back in actually July. It was updated July 20-something, 2020. I can't read it because I don't have my glasses with me right now, but it was around July 20th, 2020 is when this article, or I don't really want to call it an article, it's a strategy. It's the battle plan of the CDC and how they plan to take over your property rights, your liberty, everything that makes America good. It's right here in this plan for you guys to see. If you dare go read it. I'll have a link in the description. Click on it. I might even put a link down in the comments section too, just so that people will hopefully go click on this and read this for themselves, because I'm not going to read through the whole thing. That's boring. I've already read through the thing 5 times. I can tell you basically what's in the thing. What they're saying here, it's called Interim Operational Considerations for Implementing the Shielding Approach to Prevent COVID-19 Infections in Humanitarian Settings. That is a fancy way for saying the CDC and Obama's civilian police force, back in, if you don't know, back in 2008, Obama said, we've got to have a civilian national security force that's just as powerful, just as, just as strong, just as well funded as the military, is what he was talking about. That's a quote from Obama, 2008, when he was running for POTUS. So before he was even in office, he was talking about this civilian national security force. And you might be thinking, well, how would they implement any of this shielding approach to prevent COVID-19? And how would they actually take over your property and your home and kick you out of it, or make you a captive prisoner inside of your own home? How would they do that? You're asking yourself. This sounds too far-fetched, you're saying. And I hear you. It sounded far-fetched to me, too, when I first heard Alex Jones talking about it today, until I went and read the actual words of these freaking tyrants that have taken over our entire government. Let's just be honest. Every bureaucracy is run by communists, or at very least, Marxist globalists that have an agenda that's not lining up with the founding of this country. So something has gone terribly, terribly wrong in the last 10 years. We are suddenly, off the cliff, guys. We're not heading toward the cliff. We're over the side of the cliff. Now, there are only a few people out there that even can throw us a lifeline to possibly save us, but we're heading toward the abyss. This is not good. This is not good at all. This is the collapse of the entire system as we know it, everything we know. And this is how they're going to do it. This is their battle plan. The interim operational considerations for implementing the shielding approach to prevent COVID-19 infections in humanitarian settings. Boy, that sounds like a wonderful thing, doesn't it? They just want to prevent COVID-19, man. That's all they want to do. We got this new Delta variant, you see? And you know what? You're going to have to get more V's than we thought. We told you the first go around that if you got this one V, then you'd be a free person again. You get to go out and have your little V passport, and you get to go out and do things in New York City that other people can't do. You're going to get discounts on all this other stuff. Oh, if you want to go to a Bruce Springsteen concert or whatever, Pearl Jam or some other fucking communist, then they're going to let you in for free. Or they're going to let you have front row seats because you've got the fucking V passport. We have been divided, guys. This is off the charts Orwellian. I got to calm down. I'm telling you guys, we're in real trouble. This is beyond anything I could ever imagine. These people tell you, what is the shielding approach? They tell you, go read it. I'm not going to read it to you. You read it for yourself if you're curious. If you want to save America, go spend 10 minutes reading this 10-page deal here. It's only 10 pages long, 9 pages long. Go read it. It says it in their own words back in 2020 under Donald Trump. Donald Trump was still president then. Donald Trump wouldn't allow this sort of stuff to happen because he was anti-globalist. That's why the entire mainstream media turned on him. That's why all the rhinos exposed their ugly heads during the Trump administration and said, yeah, we're never Trumpers. People like the Lincoln Project and all these other supposed conservatives. They have been lying to us. They are the worst. They are wolves in sheep's clothing, people. We got to stop them. We got to get them out of office, get them out of power. We've got to... If we don't tear down their control over all of the bureaucracies. And I mean like instantly before the 2022 midterms. If we don't do it like instantly and figure out how we can start a massive recall effort and get all of these people that have tyrannical ideas and goals for the United States of America out of office, then we're doomed. That's the only way I can say it. These people are talking about taking over farms. They're talking about taking power over schools, so that they can save you from the Delta variant. And it wasn't the Delta variant back then. They didn't even know about the V back then in this part. They weren't even sure about it yet. So I'm sure if they updated it now, it would be who are the high risk people. That's how they divided these people, high risk and low risk people. So if you're low risk, and let's say you live in some big liberally controlled city, and they deem your entire city low risk, you're good to go. But let's say you voted for Trump last time around and you live in one of these high risk areas that's out in the countryside where, not very many people have had the V. They're going to consider that high risk. Although in this article here, or this plan for taking over the houses in the United States of America and kicking the rightful owners out of the houses, in this plan it tells you that they're going to come in and put other families in your home. And essentially, you're going to have to take care of those people, and you're going to have special accommodations because, you can't have a bathroom that's not handicapped accessible. Even if you don't have a handicapped person in your home that you're taking care of, that's how these people are going to do this stuff. They're going to come in and they're going to inspect everything. Your bathroom's not up to snuff. It's not, you got a 5-gallon toilet over there? You're supposed to have the 1.5 gallon. We got to get that updated, and we got to get a handicap stall in here. We got to change this is going to cost you, thousands and thousands of dollars to update this just so that we can come in and use your facilities against your will. They're talking about dividing people up by the HH, as they call it, or households. So they're admitting here that this is going to cause a lot of stress. A lot of people are going to freak out because this is unprecedented. No one's ever been taken away from their family and not allowed to visit them if they're in a green zone. So they're talking about isolating groups of the population here. FEMA camps, CDC camps, whatever you want to call them. They're openly admitting that they plan to do this. Now, this is supposed to be to prevent a lockdown. Instead, we went through the lockdown things and all this, but I guess this was for the next go around. So guys, they're telling you their battle plans right here. All you have to do is go read them. And I know the hands-on channel audience, the main audience, the ones we talk back and forth in the comments all the time, I know you guys will go read it. I'm not talking to you. I'm talking to the people that are just, I don't know if their heads are full of mashed potatoes or what, but I'm not seeing people getting upset about any of this stuff. Very few people. Alex Jones and, Mike Adams had a great report from Natural News the other day that was talking about they have never even identified or isolated a single strain of this. No one can isolate this thing. By now, by the second week of this, we should have had an isolated strain of this that you would make a particular V to take care of. If you're going to make medicine to combat something, you have to know what that thing is, right? You have to have something to fight. Or do you? Or could you say any cold virus, any flu virus, test positive and get everybody to get in freak out mode? It looks like, guys, we have been involved in the biggest, not only theft, but scam in the entire known human civilization, at least as far as since we've been recording history. I have never heard of anything on such a global scale that has been either exaggerated, blown out of proportion, or just fabricated to the level of this COVID stuff. This is just off the charts, guys. Let's get into this. They're talking all about green zones and stuff like that, which to me is like a military term. So, low-risk household members should not enter a green zone. If entry is necessary, it should be done by healthy individuals after washing their hands and using face coverings. Interaction should be at safe distance, approximately 2 meters, minimum movement of high-risk individuals outside of the green zone. Low-risk household members continue to follow social distancing and hygiene practices outside the house. Neighborhood level. So these are the different levels. That first one was the household level. This is what they expect. So that household level, the way I interpret that is They're going to basically make you, if they consider your house a green zone, then that means there's high risk members living in that place. And low risk members, low risk people should not enter. So if you've got a family member that's not in the green zone, then they're not going to be allowed to come visit you, even if you're on your deathbed, and maybe the last time they ever get to see you. So even if you know, unless it was some emergency that, you know, the government deemed okay, like Obama's party or something, then they'd be fine with that. Or if it was a BLM riot or whatever, or I meant protest. If it was something like that, a BLM Antifa protest, they'd probably allow that still. The next level, neighborhood level. A designated shelter group of shelters, max 5 to 10 households, within a small camp or area where high-risk members are grouped together. Neighbors swap households to accommodate high-risk individuals. I never signed up to swap households with any of my neighbors, did you? The CDC says you're going to. If they come in and deem you or your household a high-risk area or a high-risk zone, a high-risk neighborhood maybe you're living in a neighborhood where mostly the people around you are retired community people. You know, they're older, maybe they're in their 70s plus, and the CDC comes in and says, you know what? Even though you're 45 years old and you're at low risk for this, all your neighbors are at high risk for this. So we're going to have to make your neighborhood a green zone. And that means you will not be able to come or go out of that green zone. Or maybe they'll make provisions where you'll have to move out of your house, out of that green zone, because you're the only one that's at low risk, and everybody else will just stay there, and they'll move somebody else in that's high risk, or some other group, or, you know, one of Obama's National Security Force members will come in and live in your home. Oh, don't worry, they'll take care of it. I'm sure they're going to treat it just like you would. So don't worry about any of that. Once that happens, guys, if they're able to kick you out of your home and take possession of your home and put essentially military troops inside of your home to establish different rules and regulations, you have lost America. You will never get it back at that point. You'll never get your home and your property back. And even if you do, you'll know then from that day forward, it never really was yours. That's what you'll know, that private property rights mean diddly squat in this country. I mean, an argument can be made with the taxation of property, private property like it is, making people pay for public education and stuff like that, and all their other clown show projects that they're running every day. You could make an argument that property tax already lets you know who really owns your place. If you don't believe me, stop paying your property tax and see what happens. They'll auction that shit off quicker than you can say, hey, wait a minute, you know? So you won't be allowed to move around if you're in one of these neighborhood level green zones. So next level is a camp sector level. A group of shelters such as schools, community buildings within a camp sector, max 50 high-risk individuals per single green zone, where high-risk individuals are physically isolated together. So what they're talking about here is taking control of basically your local schools. Think of that school that's right over there around the corner from you where your kids go to school. Maybe it's a high school, elementary, whatever. They've got big gymnasiums and they've got, auditoriums and different things like that. Also, your local towns may have some big community centers and places like that, or big public parks. Maybe it has a big pavilion in that big public park that they could go in there and set up a whole bunch of tents and force people out of their homes and into these tents if they deem you high risk. Now, my question is this: who is going to be deciding ultimately who is high risk and who is low risk? And will there be any political motivation behind their decisions? As stated in the shielding document, each green zone has a dedicated latrine bathing facility for high-risk individuals. So, they're going to come in when they take your neighborhood over, and they're going to go ahead and set up some sort of a latrine, community latrine out in the middle of the cul-de-sac or whatever, and you're going to have to all go out there and use that latrine, I guess. Considerations as suggested by the CDC. The shielding approach advises against any new facility construction to establish green zones. However, few settings will have existing shelters or communal facilities with designated latrine or bathing facilities to accommodate high-risk individuals. In these settings, most latrines used by households are located outside the home and often shared by multiple households. So here they go. They're just talking about the shitter. It's going to be out in the middle of the your 5 household camp that you and your 5 closest neighbors are going to be stuck in and prisoner to. You'll have a latrine, so don't worry about that. You're going to be able to go out there, and it'll be handicapped accessible and all that. So if you're in a wheelchair or anything, it'll meet all of the handicap requirements and all this. So I mean, here we go. This is Obama's police force here. Or maybe you want to call them contract tracers. Maybe you want to call them just CDC people, or the bureaucracies, or the Park Service, or I mean, you name it. The Capitol Police, they're being used like a national police force right now. Is that constitutional? I don't believe it is. It certainly isn't within the scope of what the founding fathers had envisioned for this country. So here's community acceptance and involvement in the design and implementation. So that's going to be real important, is not only that you allow these people in, but you accept it. And you openly accept it. And I'm wondering here, what are they going to do with the people that are like, hell no, you ain't taking my house? I think they have a special camp for those kinds of people. It's called the FEMA camps that we've all heard about all these years. That'll be the new re-education camp. So, if you practice wrong think, and believe in people like Thomas Jefferson and George Washington and, Samuel Adams, John Adams, all the, Hamilton, all the founding fathers. If you believe in those people, you will need to be re-educated. That's pretty much the gist of it. Unless you believe in the New World Order scheme to take your home away from you, maybe your farm as well. As stated in the shielding document, green zones should be more spacious in terms of shelter area per capita than the surrounding camp sector, even at the cost of greater crowding of low-risk people. So what does that mean? So that means if you're low risk, they're going to stuff you into a building like sardines. If you've got a nice big homestead out in the suburbs where, you've got a nice big living room, maybe 4 bedrooms, 2 bathrooms, oh boy, that's going to be a really good place for the CDC to put up some sickly people, they say, to prevent the spread. That's all this is all about. It's all about protection, guys. In the name of security, for securing your health and your future, I guess you're supposed to give up your essential liberty. I mean, I'm pretty sure that was what Ben Franklin said. Security is the best thing and liberty sucks. I'm pretty sure that's how he put it. That's how it will be by the time the liberals are done rewriting the history books. Trust me. The reason I wanted to go over that and some of these little key points here, they talk about population characteristics, timeline considerations, other logistical considerations, protection, social, cultural, religious practices, mental health. This is an interesting one. Consideration. Ensure mental health and psychological support. Structures are in place to address increased stress and anxiety. So they are aware that they're going to cause a whole bunch of anxiety when they come and take you out of your home, or they come and make you a prisoner in your home. So guys, what do I think this is? I think this is the battle plan for lockdown 2.0. They're not going to say nationwide lockdown, shut down everything but Walmart and Lowe's and Home Depot. Oh, no. They're going to send Obama's national police force out that they've been building since 2008, and they're going to come to your house and they're going to assess you, and they're going to say, oh, you haven't had the V? Oh, well, we've offered it to you several times. When their V task force comes to your front door, and they're going to be like, oh, hey, by the way, we see here that you didn't get the V. Why is that? And you're like, well, I don't want it. And oh, really? And then they look at your voter registration, and they're like, oh, I see he's registered Republican, or he's registered as an independent or a libertarian. Oh, we got to put a note by that. This person doesn't have the V, and they probably voted for Trump. So that's 3 strikes right there. And then I don't know if that's how it goes or what, but I can easily see that. I mean, is that hard to believe, guys? They have separated us to the point where it's V versus no V. It's white versus black, male versus female. Are you rich? Are you poor? I mean, are you a D or are you an R? Are you a fascist or are you an anti-fascist? Although those things are 180 degrees out of phase with reality, it doesn't matter. The point is it's another level of division. I can already hear the sheeple, the ones that were so willing to give up their liberty and freedom and lock down, and the ones that closed their businesses down. I can already hear them. They're going to be like, well, I mean, it sounds real good. They're just trying to protect us. So, I mean, maybe I should just give them the keys to my business and let them come in here and just set up a green zone. And I mean, the government's going to pay me, so it'll all be good. I can sit at home and watch Netflix and, surf the internet. And, oh, by the way, you won't be able to search the internet for videos like this because they won't exist anymore. And Alex Jones and places like that, Tucker Carlson, all those types of people, Chris Ann Hall, all those people that I mention on the show all the time, they'll be non-existent anymore. We'll probably be in a FEMA camp somewhere. So I guess the real question of this video is do you really stand for liberty? I mean, are you going to allow them to implement this in America? I mean, everything that I see from recent history tells me the answer to that question is yes. The majority of the people will just let them come in. They'll probably invite them in and hand them the keys and be like, oh, here you go, government man. Oh, you want to come in here and live in my place? Yeah, sure. That's no problem. Don't worry about that Third Amendment in the Constitution about quartering soldiers and stuff. No. That's old stuff. We don't talk about that anymore. Or what are you, a racist? Bringing up the Constitution? Oh, you believe in liberty and you voted for Donald Trump? Oh, man. You must be a national white supremacist nationalist terrorist. That's what you are, according to Biden. I never thought we'd be here, guys. We're in big trouble. Big trouble. And you know why? It's because we didn't hold their feet to the fire. We allowed these politicians to get away with literally murder time and time again. And theft right in broad daylight. They robbed us blind. They robbed our kids blind. They just passed this bullshit $1.2 trillion infrastructure bill that has very little to do with roads and highways. It has all to do with their socialism programs. So I don't know how much longer they're going to let me do these videos, guys. So I appreciate you tuning in, and I highly encourage you, if you care about liberty and you want to know what their battle plan is, don't just take my word for it. Go check this crap out. They're telling you right here in black and white their battle plan for taking over the United States of America. Overthrowing the Constitution. They don't mention it not once. When they say other considerations, not once do they mention liberty. Not once do they mention, freedom of people to make their own choices and do their own thing and take their own risks. Not once. It's all preordained and planned out by the CDC. And if you think for a second Biden wouldn't look at this plan and go, oh boy, and start licking his chops, then you got another thing coming. The end of America is upon us. What are you willing to do for it? What are you willing to do? Are you willing to do like the founding fathers did and risk your life and your sacred fortune and honor and everything else that you believe in and care about to save this country? Or are you going to stand there and go along to get along like a sheep to slaughter? Appreciate you tuning in, guys. Again, I don't know how long this is going to last. They're not going to let me talk like this for very long. So I stand for liberty. I hope you do too. And go read this shit because that's the only way you're going to believe it.